Who do you already regret drafting in your fantasy football leagues?
Do I regret drafting?
Already. It's week 1. But you know what? There's got to be someone you're like, why the hell did I
I
take
got to
him?
think about it. I just forgot who I even
Worthy?
got. I mean, Worthy, obviously, but I just got that for the stack. I only did that in one league. And the thing about Worthy, and I posted on this, is like, it's like Tank Dell last year. People are like, look at his yards per route run. Look at the XYZ. It's like, dude, Worthy weighs like 165 pounds in the NFL. And at what point are people just going to be like, look, they can't. So what happened was there was like a revolution where they changed the rules where the cornerbacks couldn't grab and clutch these guys. Remember, it used to be like Brandon Marshall and Andre Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald and Calvin Johnson, right? All these monsters, right? Those are the receivers. And then all of a sudden, like, it was like Odell Beckham and Antonio Brown and Tyreek Hill and all these little guys started dominating, right? And they just said, oh, you know what? Let's go even smaller and quicker, right? Let's go get Xavier Worthy and Devonta Smith and Tank Dell. These guys are 170 pounds. And I think they just hit the limit. And they're like, these guys, yeah, they're super quick and they can get open, but they're going to get tackled and they're not going to survive. They're crash into Travis Kelce. Mr. Pfizer is like taking people out left and right, any way he can. But the point is that it's one of those things where I drafted him because I was doing this Chief stack. And that team won, by the way. This team, here's my first 4 picks. Jamar Chase, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice. Plus, I got Addison in the 7th. And that team won in week 1, okay? Because I had Hollywood Brown, the free look, and a couple other guys. But you just can't get a guy. Hollywood Brown's 180. That's like the bare minimum, in my opinion. You're 165. I'm just going to cross those guys off my draft list next time.
I mean, not in the 3rd or 4th round, right? You'll take him in the 7th, 8th, 9th.
I just think there's no chance those guys can get 100 targets and not get injured. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe Devonta Smith's done it a couple times. Maybe there's a chance you can do it. But like, it's like you want volume, and yet if you get the volume, you're getting hurt because you're going to get hit at some point.
Yeah. You owe me 30% of your fab in the NFFC league. I saved you having to bid on Harold Fannin. You remember the last pick?
And I bid like 2250 in my other leagues where I needed it.
You lost. You lost.
No, I got it. I got him in all my leagues. Yeah, I just got him. Yeah.
In the NFFC, you got him for 2250?
250.
250, right. Yeah. I got him. I paid 330, but the next bid was 280.
Okay, well, my next bid was like 150 in the league.
Nutless.
But I got him in like 2 or 3 leagues,
Yeah.
And
but I have the league we're in together. You took him with your last pick when
I know because of you. We were talking, and it was him or Miles Sanders. You're like, dude, go Fannin, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I got Miles Sanders will be dropped by now.
I was having a discussion with my buddy. Like, I would already have Fannin after that one thing. I know there's a possibility it could be Isaiah Likely from last year, but even Likely, I have Fannin as my tight end 6 in Dynasty at this point. Like I saw in
Dynasty, but what about just for this year?
Top 12. Right.
So I have Mark Andrews, who I drafted in the prime time. That's the league I went biggest on.
I wouldn't pay him. I wouldn't play him anymore.
You would play Fannin over Andrews until Andrews does something?
Correct. And even when Andrews does something, he's now in the category of like those tight ends 17 to 18 where it's touchdown or bust. Like I need to see a 6 for 75 from Andrews before I play him, not just a touchdown.
Some targets, right? And so but the problem was the Ravens, right? Bateman got no targets. Only Zay Flowers got targets. And the reason for that was that they were ahead the whole game until they just completely collapsed. So like the game flow was a Henry game, which he got a ton of carries. And I just won, and they were so efficient. Like Henry was getting 50-yard carries. So there weren't like a lot of like first down grinded out drives. So I don't think that was really representative of the Ravens. I think if the Ravens have to like have more, I think Lamar threw like 25 passes or something like that.
And what happens when Isaiah Likely comes back in a contract year? He's going to be out there. I'm just saying, it's like Fannin. They said, the coaches had said that he is going to be basically our slot receiver. You get a wide receiver and a Joe Flacco pass heavy, always from behind offense, who also is going to get running back carries, as you saw, and you get him in tight ends clothing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably starting Fannin this week, but I just want to get the counter argument. I have Pitts also. Drake London's banged up. He actually had a good game. But this is hell when you get 3 guys that are all sort of in that. You want just one guy to suck and one guy to be good. You want it to be clear, right? This is sort of like, okay, now Andrews gets 2 touchdowns next week.
Right.
Fannin goes 4 for 35, and I'm like, oh, that Fannin pick killed me because I would have had to start Andrews or Pitts.
Right.
But whatever.
Also, Fannin's got the bad matchup, right? They're playing Baltimore, but I don't know if that's a bad matchup. I was telling my buddy in DFS, the geek, you know him, and he said Fannin's like the dead lowest minimum you can get. I was like, and he goes, I wasn't even thinking of him. I said, I don't know. If there's a lot of pressure from the Ravens defense, it seems like they spend time thinking about how to get him the ball.
The real question is, and he had a massive, like, his college stats are off the charts, right? It's like, is he really good, right? Like, Brock Bowers is really good. We don't really worry about, like, are they going to throw to Brock Bowers? We're like, he's so good. Of course they're going to throw to him.
He had the most yards in the NCAA last year at Bowling Green, though.
Yeah, right. And so the question is he just like a gadget guy that they're using because he's like this hybrid tight end wide receiver? Or is he just a really good football player and he's going to make sure that they get him the targets? You know, it's kind of like Amon-Ra, right? It's like, I thought he was just a guy that they were throwing to a bunch, and it turns out like he's really good. And now that he's really good, you can just be like, all right, they're going to throw to him, 10 times a game. And that's always the question with these guys. Like, is it just a usage thing, or is he really good? When Isaiah Likely went off in week 1 last year, we're like, oh, Isaiah Likely's good. But apparently the Ravens didn't really think so because they didn't really use him the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But they also had, I don't know, it's every situation's different. It's just that remember last year or a couple years ago, it was like, Puka, is he good? When you see it, this is how fantasy football is played in modern day, in my opinion, is like, are you willing to change quicker than everyone else is willing? A new truth. Are you willing to accept the new truth before everyone else? It seems like you are in every other part of life, right?
Well, I'm the one who got Fannin in all my leagues, right? So I made the bits, right? But the point, the way I look at it, I don't mean
you, the proverbial you,
right? So I think that's a good question, right? Because it used to be all the nerds, regression, be patient. The sample is too small,
right?
The small sample size. You can't just say this, right? And I'll get into this trade I made based on a small sample.
Yeah.
But then there's the opposite, which is no, dude. Like, if you wait for the sample to get large enough to, be actionable, then it's too late. Someone already picked up all the guys that are actionable, right?
Yeah.
So will you spill something on yourself or something?
No, it was a work text. And again, I just shut it off now, but I had to answer. It was
Give the middle finger. You should have a middle finger emoji that you send when you're doing the podcast.
What's it called? It was one of those things where, like, if I didn't do it, it would just be on my mind. So I did it. And now I turned my phone off and put it over here.
There you go. Yeah. So no, I once during a podcast, I forget the guy's name.
Jeff Erickson?
No. It was some guy that we used to deal with. He's a nice guy, but I literally took a call because it was like from my car repair guy, and it was in the shop, and I had to get info. So I'm literally in the middle of the thing. I was like, dude, I got to take this. And I'm talking to the car sales.
It might have been me, dude. I think
no. It was Dan Gottlieb. What was his name? Something Gottlieb. He did a couple podcasts. But this was like 2013.
Oh, okay.
And I was like I was literally he was looking like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yep.
But
all right. I got another topic for you here. You closed on that one?
Yeah, I forgot what I was even saying. I got sidetracked.
It's okay. It's time for a new topic. So Jacksonville, I was big on Trevor Lawrence here. Now, again, we're talking about like accepting truths before before everyone else. I think that was the topic we were talking about there. And I'm bullish on Trevor Lawrence and the Liam Cohen offense, all that stuff. But I did not like what I saw from Trevor Lawrence. In fact, I already dropped him in a redraft league, a single quarterback for Justin Herbert. Easy swap there. But
that's easy, yeah.
Yeah, but are you worried about Brian Thomas, who hasn't really produced with Trevor Lawrence? It was Mac Jones last year that supercharged Thomas.
I mean, a tiny bit, but again, like, we know Brian Thomas is good, and the Jaguars know he's good. So that's a big hurdle. It's not just like, oh, we got a bunch of targets. He was getting like bombs for touchdowns. So this is sort of a different level of player. No, with Mac Jones, but I'm saying, like, Thomas proved beyond any doubt that he's like an upper echelon NFL receiver. So that kind of guy, it's like, you can't put that back in the bottle. It's not just like, okay, so they're going to try, I would assume, to do that. But I just made a trade. This is relevant, right? Okay. So I'm in a 2 QB league, half PPR with the Stacker Sports League. And these guys like to trade. It was a 3-way trade. I proposed it before last week and they rejected it. But then this week, one guy kind of reproposed the same trade. I won't get into all of the pieces, so just what I got and what I'm giving up.
This is a 2 quarterback league. This is
QB flex, yeah.
Super flex, and it's half PPR. Okay.
Correct.
What 2 players were you supposed to get in this trade?
So it's 3. So I gave up Devin Achane, Ollie Brown, Ollie
Miami backfield,
which I drafted, and JJ McCarthy. That's what I gave up.
You're giving away Miami backfield and JJ. Okay, what are you getting back?
I got back Trevor Lawrence, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Alec Pierce. So I'm going to drop. I actually bought an extra roster spot which I like, because I can make moves now. Like, so I didn't have anyone I could drop. So now I've got to drop so I can move that spot around. because I was carrying 2 Miami backs, right? And now I just got Gibbs. So I upgraded from Achane, Gordon to Gibbs.
You consolidated, right? 2 for 1 there, and then
a better one. You still value Gibbs higher than Achane. I mean, it's not like a slam dunk, but it's more. And then I downgraded from McCarthy, who looked good, and he's going to get Addison back eventually too, to Lawrence. But Lawrence is my backup. I've got Justin Fields and Lamar, so it's like I improved my starting lineup is what I did, and it's not like Lawrence isn't like an obvious QB flex starting QB with good receivers and a good offensive coordinator. He had one bad game. So I basically faded the small samples of Lawrence and Gibbs, and I sold high on the very small sample, one good quarter from McCarthy. And Achane is kind of neutral. Miami's bad, but he got his week 1.
Yep. No. And when you position it like that, when you sent to me the trade to give my opinion on, I was food shopping. I thought it was dynasty. I was like, I was a little distracted. But now that we're hashing it out here, I like it. You're basically the quarterback thing, like you said, is a kind of a wash, right? There's still upside for a small sample, but you took the 2 Miami backs. And by the way, Ollie Gordon should not have been valued as he was towards the end there. Right. And to Gibbs. Now, the only problem is, it's not really a problem, is that the offensive line for Detroit looks a little suspect, but that's why you were able to do this deal.
That's why I was able to get Gibbs, and Miami's offensive line looks horrendous, right? So, and their quarterback could be concussed and out any second, and Achane has that calf thing that could flare up. And I mean, it was just sort of like, I got Achane in the 3rd round. I picked up Gordon off waivers. I converted that to Gibbs, but the cost was downgrading from McCarthy to Lawrence, which is probably a downgrade. I would certainly take McCarthy straight up right now. Yeah. But Lawrence should.
They're in the same, you can't tell me week to week who's going to have more fantasy points that part. So I do like that trade. I see why they did the trade, but I like it for you.
Well, no, they didn't get that because a 3-way trade. So they got different pieces of that. The 2 guys, there was 2 other guys. So one guy gets net. That was the net. That was just for me, right? But it went to different places. But the thing is, the only reason I almost didn't do it, because McCarthy, I think if he's really good, and he might be really good, we don't know, with Addison back, with that coaching staff, could be in a QB flex, like a borderline 1st, 2nd round pick next year, right? So you might be giving up Achane and a 1st round quarterback for Gibbs, who's a 1st rounder, plus just like a mid-round quarterback in a QB flex. But again, you got to take some risk, right? You got to, if the trade is such that you're not worried about it at all, you've just ripped somebody off. And that's, it wasn't like that.
Yep. I agree that both the trade should feel uncomfortable for both sides. How about the Washington Commanders? They play Thursday night football. The Krosky Merritt thing, the JCM, I'm glad I have him. I mean, I know that even when I took him in the NFFC in round 8, I hated myself for it. It's almost like when the dealer has 16 and you have 14 and you hit and you
stay. Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to stay, but I hit and got a 7. So maybe I was right for the wrong reasons. I'm glad I have him, but it seems like it might've been a bad process.
Well, I mean, it's so easy to go back and distort your process once you see results. So at first it's oh shit, Eckler's starting. What am I even thinking? And Eckler's the pass catcher. Why would I even do that? And then you pretend like you're an idiot. And then it's well, actually, he's way more explosive than Eckler. He looked good, and he's going to start taking over that role. And Eckler's old. You're well, of course. I think the process was the process, right? You knew that he was a young guy that they traded Brian Robinson to make room for, and you're he's going to have a role, and we don't know how big. And Eckler's always hurt, and he's old. I think the process was fine.
And I wasn't probably. And Chris Rodriguez was supposed to be the goal line back. He was inactive.
Right. I think you're in the 8th round and you're talking about someone who's in the mix for sure, who showed in the preseason. It's not really, if you took him in the 6th round, I think that would have been bad process.
Yeah. And again, it's also adjusting from yesterday's price. He was going in the 16th to 18th round for a month. And then he just jumps. He went in one day. It was it was 18, 16, 14, 12. And then he just landed in the 8th. So it happened over the course of a week where he just went up, up, up. So sometimes you're right. It's almost like toothpaste. And when I say toothpaste, I'm saying that for a certain currency.
Right. Yeah. Toothbrush. Toothpaste is fine too.
Right. We're talking, of course, about a cryptocurrency that you'd see. I remember in the beginning, people were paying $5,000 for Bitcoin, for so to speak. And then what would happen was when they went, oh, I should have bought it there. It's 12,000. I can't buy it now. And I'll never forget the words you told me. You said, if that commodity goes all the way up to $1 million, you're not going to care if you got it at 5,000 or 25,000, right? So it's just adjusting to the new price.
If you're only going to buy one, it doesn't matter, right? If you could have bought 5, you're going to care, right? If you bought 5 at 5,000 or 1 at 25,000, but if you're only going to buy one, no matter what, you're not going to care at $1 million, whether you bought it at 5 or 25, really.
Same thing with JCM.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? He's Bitcoin. He's the Bitcoin of the NFL. So he just looked good, and he's on a good offense. And I think, I have a share of him in that same league that I made the trade. I made another trade in that league. I already made 2 trades. I traded Tesla and Trey Benson for Fannin because I spaced and didn't put in my waiver bids. So this guy got him cheap for Fannin and Cam Scatabo. What do you like?
This is a trade. I've never seen so many trades happen in redraft. On the redraft leagues I'm in, no one trades.
These guys are they're playing for sats and they're willing to trade and they're fair trades. These guys know what they're doing.
Yeah,
and I just feel baller. Like these guys are like, I was like, there was a 3-way trade. This one with Lawrence and Gibbs.
3-way trades never happen in fantasy.
Well, I was going to propose because it fit our teams, and I heard what they were all saying they wanted. And so what's funny is like one guy offered it, and I was like, oh, I see why he's offering it, but this other guy's not going to do it. I was like, you're offering me this, but I don't know. And I added the guy. And the guy's like, I did it. It's on you now. Right. So like, then I knew the 2 guys had done it. And I was like, okay, I can't be the pussy who like doesn't do it. Right. But I looked at it and it was fair. And I was like, I wanted to be in. I wanted to do the big trade. I wanted to be part of it. So, I feel like fair trades are so rare in these leagues that if you get one and it fits your roster, just do it. Just if it's like fair enough. And it's, as I said, like Trevor Lawrence, I downgraded quarterback on my bench, and I upgraded in my lineup. It fit my team. So
are you 2 bold predictions that I made on this podcast with you are looking good after week 1? The Keon Coleman, top 12 wide receiver, and Breece Hall, I said top 5. You said top 10 running back. So, I mean, the Breece Hall one looks like it's a lock. Like I would.
Breece Hall, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon. I was watching that game. I was like, oh, there's Breece Hall. That's the Breece Hall you drafted last year at 3 overall. That was the guy who was like, so what? They gave Braylon Allen that 1 yard, that plotter Braylon Allen, a 1 yard touchdown. But this guy's like running people over, catching passes. This guy is, top 5 running back.
Yeah, this is what you thought the Travion Henderson, not you, the fantasy versus Ramondre split should be. You actually got it with Breece Hall a round later.
2 rounds later. I got him in the 5th, Yeah. And that was stealing, and that was good to see. And Garrett Wilson too. Garrett Wilson was stealing. That was the other prediction. Like that was just so obvious.
You thought the case against Wilson was the bracket coverage, but you forget how good he is. By the way, that shot that Jalen Ramsey gave him to jar the ball loose, that was such a cool old school NFL play that you used to see on Inside the NFL and things like that. And I
didn't see that play.
So the last drive, 4th down to keep the drive alive, the Jets to score. A little 5-yard out where he needed 7 yards. So Garrett Wilson gets it, turns forward, and then before he can even take the step forward, Jalen Ramsey put a 1990s NFL hit on him and jarred the ball loose, and that was the end of the game.
I didn't see any of that.
Do you remember?
But Garrett Wilson is top 5 receiver now almost. I mean, Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Who do you want?
Oh, yeah, Garrett Wilson. And, yeah, that's...
London got 15 targets, by the way, but he didn't do anything with them, but he got 15 targets. But, I mean, Garrett Wilson is the only guy on the Jets. It's him and Breece Hall. I mean, I got those 2 guys. I should have got Fields because then I would really have something. I didn't in that league. But those guys, it's just Garrett Wilson is going to get 165 targets, 170 targets, and he's going to get 100 catches, and he's going to get, 1,300 yards. And he's going to get 8 to 10 touchdowns. I mean, what's to stop him?
The Jets should have won that game. It's sickening to me. Are you believing in that Rodgers is not MVP Rodgers, but he's at least that better than he was the last couple of years? I mean, 4 touchdowns for Rodgers. Do you think he's inside the top 15 starter bucket, Superflex top 20 maybe for the rest of the season?
Yeah, on that cusp. I mean, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers. I actually probably take Daniel Jones for the running. But yeah, I think he's now in the back end of that tier with Trevor Lawrence. He's down there. I mean, Mike Tomlin is a good coach, and it's not just the X's and O's. It's the Steelers are a real team. They have an offensive line, they have a defensive line. It's not this shit where you show up and you're this team sucks. I can't. What's
Miami?
Going on? Miami. Yeah, is this even a real team? Is this a professional organization? they're always a professional organization. And then Rodgers, who's been with the Jets, who are not a professional organization typically, although they look good week one. If he gets a little protection, and I think he still can sling the ball around.
Yep. How about your Giants? They looked like one of the worst 5 teams on week one. In week one, they just got to make the switch, right? Like I know Russell Wilson was
nothing to do with that. It has nothing. To do
I know
with
he
that.
was under duress. I get it, but
not under duress. Like under duress that Patrick Mahomes would look terrible under. So
fair.
I watched the game. Okay, literally, like the running game was stuffed at the line of scrimmage every single play. So it was never 2nd and 4, 3rd and 4. It was always 3rd and 9. Second, whenever he went back to pass, he was under attack. He actually scrambled well. He made some good runs. He threw some jump balls to neighbors that, would have been throwaways or sacks, but he had the understanding to just chuck it up and let neighbors go get it. And he made a couple catches, but it was a joke how about Washington's defensive line was like the 85 Bears and the Steel Curtain if they made an all-star team. And just when I thought in the preseason, the Giants offensive line played well and maybe they had like turned a corner. No, I don't know why they can't get this right. Like they've just not had a good offensive line, for like 10 years. And I don't know what it is, but like, look at Danny Dimes on the Colts. Looks like, friggin' Joe Montana. And it's like, oh, that's a real offensive line. Like this is just such I don't know what's wrong with Brian Daboll, but this predates Daboll. Like, why can't you just field some guys who can pass and run block?
Maybe they don't have the proper coaching. You say it all the time. It's like a cohesive thing. Maybe it comes along during the year. And by the way, that's why I always kind of scoff at these offensive line rankings a little bit. They said the Jets are going to have the worst offensive line, like ranked 30th in some of those metrics, but they lose Elijah Vera Tucker. They end up having one of the best. So yeah, it's very interesting. You're still bullish on like Malik Neighbors should be a 1st-round pick in your opinion?
Yeah. I mean, I think against Dallas, they just lost a corner. I think they lost Deron Bland, and their pass rush is, obviously doesn't have Micah Parsons, and I think Neighbors is going to go bananas. I just don't. You can't play like they did against Washington. I don't know if Washington's defensive line is actually good. It might be, but you just can't play like that. Like they have to. You know what? Maybe I don't know what I didn't look at this closely enough, but I remember there's Mike Martz was the coach of the Lions for a while, and he was the offensive coordinator on the Greatest Show on Turf for the Rams. And he used to just send 4 receivers out like every time, and the quarterbacks get pinball numbers. But the quarterback started getting killed. First it was Warner, and then it was whoever was in Detroit just getting killed, right? And it was like, oh, wait a second, you need to have some tight ends, you need to have, extra blockers in there, and you just can't play like that. And I almost feel like, I don't know, Daboll, like you got to I don't care if you send 2 guys out, you need to put more guys on the offensive line. Like you cannot run a team like this. So hopefully they do whatever it takes to get Russell Wilson some time. And I do think that the Neighbors, it can't go on like all season like this. I don't think it can.
You were asking like who Mike Martz coached in Detroit. It was Drew Stanton back in the day.
Right.
Yep.
But he'd already made the same mistake in with St. Louis, and it just destroyed him.
Yeah, no, it's a good point there. What did you think of Caleb Williams? First of all, did you watch? Is it too late for you in Portugal to watch the Monday night game?
No, I just watched the 40-minute edited version.
I don't know if this is something that would even go on Europe, but like even just from the beginning, like with Caleb Williams was wearing that gray undershirt that looked weird. It looked like I don't know if you saw that. It was like sticking out. The jersey didn't fit him right. I don't know. For fantasy football, Jeff and Nick asked me this on SiriusXM about Caleb, and my reply was, for fantasy football, it's not going to be a problem, right? Like Ben Johnson should be able to get him there, but I don't know, man. He didn't look like a number 1 overall pick. Like I think if they could redo that, they would have taken Jaden Daniels. Remember, Jaden Daniels went number 2.
Of course, they would take Jaden Daniels. I mean,
I'm just saying, like it's usually after 1 year, it's like it's not a declared fact yet. But do you think Caleb Williams is a top 12 real life quarterback?
No, not top 12. But so here's something. So there was a hit piece that came out about Caleb Williams. I don't know if you saw this.
Yes.
I forget the guy's name, is some Substack guy. And it was basically, or maybe not a Substack guy, but writes for some publication. And he basically said like all these quotes from like the old regime in Chicago about like Caleb Williams wouldn't listen and it was ridiculous. They were like designing the whole team around him and they were simplifying the playbook because he wouldn't learn, he wouldn't study, he wouldn't do anything. And I remember, and I was thinking, oh yeah. And then there was like a game against the Texans in like week 1 last year. I think the Bears won on some defense over the Texans did, but it was like a crazy game. And CJ Stroud, who was kind of a star, week 1 last year, came over to like give him some encouragement. And Caleb Williams kind of like blew him off, was like, whatever. Right. And it was like, wow, he's being rude to CJ Stroud. Like most rookies would be like
to DJ Moore.
No. CJ Stroud. It was a Texans Bears game. Okay. And it was after the game. And, the quarterbacks come and like hug in the middle sometimes, Yep. And you saw like Caleb Williams kind of like blew him off, like whatever. He was like giving him some advice or whatever. And he kind of blew him off. And I was like, oh, that's kind of rude. And then this piece comes out, this like hit piece on Caleb Williams saying like, he's too dumb. He doesn't work hard. He doesn't do whatever. I don't know, dumb, but like not willing to like study basically. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But then one of my commenters on Real Man Sports was like, oh, he's dyslexic. Right. So I looked that up and he has like a learning issue. Right. So then there's like a hit piece by this guy who's kind of a hit piece guy. So I don't really respect that. But there's like a real issue where like he doesn't pick up certain things because he has like a learning issue, allegedly.
Well, that's got to be part of the evaluation process.
Of course. It's the NFL. It's not like, oh, we feel bad. Like it's just, it is what it is. Right. It's pros. So I don't know what to make of all of that, but there was this hit piece that I was sort of dismissive of because, yeah, he's like sourcing it from like the team that got fired, the guys that get fired. But then he does have this thing, and maybe, he'll have a superpower where it's like, oh, yeah, he got here in spite of this. Maybe he's got this other way of dealing with it. Or it might just be this limitation that he just can't surmount. But there's like an issue with him that's like not just what you're looking at, when you're watching a game. So I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, here's the picture of
I lost your audio. Can't hear you. You muted yourself.
I don't think I did. You can't hear me?
Can't hear you, Alan.
That's weird because you check your headphones. I don't know.
I didn't do anything.
Okay, I'll pause. Here's a photo of Caleb Williams with that undershirt. Doesn't look as bad there, but you see that?
No. Yeah.
All right, you're not as turned off by that as I was.
You got to pull up a photo of the Stroud Caleb Williams meeting after the game. I bet it's somewhere. It was like he was like whatever. Like,
are you in any guillotine leagues?
No.
You know what that is, though?
I vaguely know what it is. It sounded like something I didn't want to do, so I never did it.
I don't either. I got dragged into it. It's not bad. I mean, so basically, here's the short version: is you could play with up to 17 teams because one team gets eliminated each week.
Right.
So all you have to do is not have the lowest score each week. Has nothing to do with anything else. No head-to-head.
But don't you pick up the players of the guy who left?
So the team that gets eliminated, all of their players go to the waiver wire.
Okay, so you just bid on these guys.
Right. So the strategy, the reason I'm even bringing it up is I got into one and CeeDee Lamb, the three studs out there were Hurts in a single quarterback, Lamb and James Cook. Right. So I said to my buddy, I want to put a big bid on CeeDee Lamb. And he said, well, don't do that because you're paying, I ended up getting him for 38%. Right.
Right.
That's a good deal. He said, you don't do that because guys like this pop, you don't need to win each week, and guys need to pop up. Like Jamar Chase in week 7 is going to be like, 8%.
Oh, I see. Because people run out of money, and there's always stars coming up. It's not like it's not like CeeDee Lamb got dropped in your normal league, and that's by far the best opportunity you're ever going to have. Right. It's like this is every week you get a first round pick, right?
Right. And he said CeeDee Lamb could be back out there again in 2 weeks if that team that picks him up gets eliminated, because usually the people that go big are the people that are in trouble.
But if you get him after week 1, you've got him 17 weeks, right? Well, so if you get Jamar Chase in week 8, I'd rather have a full season of Lamb, right? So.
Right. And that was my point. That's why I paid 38%, because I said, fine, you don't want to pay like 28% for James Cook because you're going to want to upgrade on James Cook. Right. You ain't upgrading on CeeDee Lamb other than, there's 4 players, that you could upgrade on him. So I got up, and that was my only weak spot. I had Jalen Waddle as my receiver. Now I have CeeDee Lamb there.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I guess, now that I'm talking about it, I could do something like that.
Just do one.
Yeah. It's just like, it's baseball's like this too. You calibrate your mind to a certain thing, and then you say, okay, we're going to do PPR is like what we do. So I just do PPR, right? And it's like, it's half PPR or it's QB flex. Now I got to recalibrate, but that's not too bad. It's just, you have to revalue one position, but you start to like get too many variations. It's like,
totally agree with you. Totally agree. And again,
getting away from just evaluating players and getting into like something else.
It was one of these industry drafts, but they were charging $50. I still didn't want to do it. Tim Schuler was very generous. He goes, I'll pay for it for you to go in there. RotoWire will pay for it because you're representing RotoWire.
Right.
So now
couldn't turn down the free roll.
Couldn't turn down the free roll and, want to have a good showing. So, yeah.
You don't value your time doing this all year. It's the $50 that you didn't want to.
It got to be like a publicly sort of discussed thing. So I didn't want to say, I don't like to say no to anything RotoWire asked me to do that, right. The reason. So, yeah. The Cincinnati Bengals had a bad fantasy output. Joe Burrow had 9 fantasy points. Did that last year. T. Higgins, and then obviously Jamar Chase. This is what you've always talked about. The reason you draft Jamar Chase is because he could have 6 bad weeks in a row. You're still playing him with not confidence, but without having to sit him. So
I'll sit him for Hollywood Brown this week. I've changed my.
No way, get out of here. So what happened with the Bengals? Why such a bad fantasy output?
I don't know. They say Burrow starts slow, but then I was reading the Scott Barrett thing. Like every year there was something like a surgery, or he was out for the preseason, or Chase was holding out, Andy was coming back from an injury, and they start slow. But this year there was none of that. So I was like, okay, that start slow is just some bullshit. That's like there's reasons for that. And then also like the Browns know them well, I guess, whatever. But I don't know. I didn't really watch that much of that game, but I was like, come on, just light it up already. Just throw a touchdown to Chase. Like, what's going on here? And they just couldn't do it. And they should have lost except for some missed extra points. But I don't really know what happened. I don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you're not worried about it, right? I mean, that's why you take these guys early. But hey, all that 39% that have that Bengals stack, they're the bottom 39% of the NFFC right now.
They're out of the playoffs. Forget it. No, I mean, they'll obviously Chase will get his if he's healthy, and Burrow should get his, and Higgins should be okay. But yeah, I mean, 2 for 26 is just not. I mean, you think he has a bad game, it's going to be like 5 for 65. That's like a bad game for Chase.
Yeah. One of the other things people were talking about this week is AJ Brown, bad second round pick, or you think it's just like 1 week? I mean, I would be a little worried if I had him. I would trade him for another player down the original rankings.
Okay.
To
would
get
you trade him for Marvin Harrison?
Yes.
You would?
Yes.
I would. I wouldn't trade him for Marvin Harrison. I would definitely trade him for JSN. I'd definitely trade him for, I think if we draft again, JSN goes ahead of him. But I'd be a little worried. The problem with AJ Brown is that he's a great player, but the Eagles, I mean, Goddard just got hurt, so that actually probably helps AJ Brown.
Goddard's hurt?
Yeah, he just got hurt. Yeah, he sprained his knee.
So he's not going to play?
Probably not.
Oh, no.
You didn't know that? Okay. All so right. He's always hurt. That's the problem with him. He'd be like, tight end 8, but he's always hurt. Brown, just like, I feel like he'll take over a game sometimes, but they just don't. He's just not one of those guys. They're like, we got to get this guy like 12 targets every game, and so he just disappears. And I don't know. I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, nothing happened. Nothing changed, right? They just didn't throw to him. And probably this week be a good DFS play because they're going to want to like give him his,
Yep. McCaffrey won, victory lap for those who took him at pick 5, right? Like, obviously, he heard that he was a little banged up and what a stupid pick it was, like a day before the season. Then he gets 30 touches.
Well, I'm telling you, man, the McCaffrey A-Chan, your buddy the Geek, I was like, he had the round 2. He took Bowers, which is fine. But I was like, you got to take A-Chan. If you're going to go all in on risk, go all in on risk, win the league. Those are the guys that you criticized on my draft last year. I took McCaffrey and A-Chan as my first 2 picks. That's like, I'm going to win the whole tournament, but
I just to give context, we were in a draft with another friend of ours, Kevin, and he took McCaffrey in round 1. It came back around. A-Chan was there. He passed on him for Brock Bowers in round 2. Yeah. And you critiqued that right there and then.
I mean, Bowers is a fine pick. I like Bowers, but I was just sort of joking, like, be a real man and go. If you're going to take the risk and like pick 6 with McCaffrey, middle of round 2 for A-Chan is like, just go all in. But McCaffrey got such a ridiculous workload, and that's not going to change with Kittle hurt. And
George Brittle nickname coming true again.
George Brittle. I don't know. I didn't think he was going to hurt week 1, obviously, and miss a month or whatever, but I just saw that guy going around 3 sometimes, and then it was 4. Like, he was going around 7 the last few years, and it's like, you're just going to, I don't know. He hasn't gotten more than 100 targets since 2019.
He doesn't need it though. He doesn't.
Targets, not catches, targets. Okay. Like the Evan Ingrams of the world. I know he had a bad game. Get 100 catches sometimes, like you're talking about a guy who doesn't even get 100 targets. And you take him in the 3rd round. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
and now Brock Purdy they said the prognosis is missing 2 to 5 weeks with a turf toe variant.
right. Well, so I think Mac Jones is one of the good backups. So like, I don't think it's going to hurt. I mean, obviously Kittle's out, so it doesn't matter. But I think like Pearsall will be fine. I think that McCaffrey will be fine. Like, I don't think Mac Jones is one of those, like the offense collapses. I could be wrong.
We just talked about how he's the one who elevated Brian Thomas Jr. last year.
Right. And I think he's one of those guys that like, he was okay on the Patriots as a rookie. He wasn't that good. And he wasn't good enough to be a starter. He's not Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's going to be like that when he gets, but he's one of those guys like Mayfield or Goff that like will have, I think, like a second act where he's like a starter for a couple of years, maybe on a bad team.
Darnold.
He's Darnold. He's like Darnold, right? Like somebody who's going to be functional, I think. And it's fine. He was never like, when you saw him on the Patriots, like, oh my God, this is just a disaster. He was like, yeah, he can't really do it on a bad team. He's not getting the help he needs,
And Darnold was the backup on San Francisco, just like Mac Jones. And if you remember back to that draft where Mac Jones was drafted, the 49ers pay the ransom to move up. They take Trey Lance. By all reports, it was Shanahan that wanted Mac Jones.
Yeah. He liked Mac Jones. I mean, again, that was the Trevor Lawrence, Zach. This is one of the worst quarterback drafts. Fields was like the best of those guys, right? And he's not even good, although he looked good week one.
Okay, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
What did you make of there's a reason I'm asking about Tank Bigsby. He was traded from Jacksonville to the Eagles. This meant a few things. I was trying to does it mean like they're totally settled on ETN and that he would be a 3rd round pick if we redrafted today? Does it mean that the Eagles side that that they don't believe in AJ Dillon as a smasher backup, that Will Shipley broke his, go through the whole, start with the Jacksonville side. What do you think this trade meant for Jacksonville?
So it meant that they drafted Tootin in the 4th, and they probably tried to get more for Bigsby, but didn't really have any takers, or nobody was interested, or they wanted to see things shake out, go to the preseason with 3 healthy backs, make sure they had the depth. Now that they have 3 healthy backs, they were like, okay, we drafted Tootin for a reason. There's no reason to have all 3. I do think that ETN, and I came around to this very late in draft season. I was like looking at ETN again, and I was like, he is the starter until something changes. And he had a ton of upside like earlier in his career. He's not old. I just never did it, but that was a good pick in the 8th round. And I think he would go in like the 4th now,
maybe 3rd, dude. Maybe 3rd.
I mean, you look at James Cook going in the 3rd, 4th. I think like around there.
Yeah.
But anyway, in that range. And Tootin is like a high upside backup, but Tootin fumbled a lot in college, and that's always like the kiss of death. And then Bigsby, I think they said they're going to use him on kick returns, but they wouldn't do that just for that. I think that Shipley is banged up. I think the Eagles are like, if Shipley's just banged up a little bit, which may compromise him for a month, they're probably like, okay, we need a guy. They probably soured on Dillon. Dillon hasn't been good for a while.
Yeah. And they paid a 5th and a 6th rounder for him. So that's not just kick return, right? Like that's, right. And sometimes like coaches, they'll like a guy in like the draft process, and then like years go by, and then they'll be like, okay, this is a good time to like we liked him when we did our evaluation, and then we just didn't get him. And it seems like it could be something like that. So I dropped Bigsby in NFFC, but I was like, ooh, maybe I should go pick him up again, because he seems like he would have a lot of upside. Like he'd be ranked as like a top 17 back if Barkley would have missed a week.
Yeah, he'd be, behind that line with that offense, he would be valuable. No, you don't know that it's him. I mean, it might be, it might be, what's his name? Shipley. Shipley's like, oh, his ribs feel a little better, and they're going to split. And then Shipley's a little bit better. So I don't think it's a slam dunk, but yeah, you could bid $50 on him on your fab, 5% or whatever.
I was into Kayshon Boutte, the Patriots' second-year receiver. I don't know if you know the backstory with him, is that he was, as a high school recruit, like he was going to be the next guy, right? Like he goes to LSU. He actually produces as like a freshman, has a couple bad years, tests horribly, and then ends up as a 6th-round pick. But he's an LSU receiver. Those guys are pretty good. And then I'm sure you've heard this on social media over the last couple of days. It's like if you go back to last year, and this first game, that 4-game sample, he has 16 or more fantasy points in the last 3 of the last 4 games. So there's like a small trend going on there with Boutte.
Yeah, and they don't have anybody. Diggs is like a possession guy now, and he's like a good slot possession guy, but they don't really have anybody like this. He could get 8 to 10 targets a game. There's no reason that he couldn't be sort of the number one or the 1A to Diggs.
He's Drake May's guy.
Yeah. And Diggs is new, and he played with Boutte last year and practiced with him. So I probably should have bid more on him, actually, to be honest.
Me too. What'd you bid? Because I got
50,
crushed.
60, but I needed tight ends, and so I bid on Quentin Johnson like 130 or something, and he went way, way more than that.
I got Johnston went in the high 30s in some of the leagues I was in, and then Boutte went in the 20s. I got my highest bid was 189 on him, and I didn't get him.
Yeah, I didn't go big. You always need receiver. You should never be I don't need, because you're going to need it, and there's going to be bye weeks and injuries.
You know what? I heard Nelson Sousa say on a podcast the other day, and it was so obvious, but sometimes you just need to hear the obvious. He's like, you're doing roster construction during drafts, but in waiver wire, you're just accumulating good players. It doesn't matter what it is, because you're going to need that guy when you don't think you will. And don't worry that I have 6 running backs and 7 receivers. Just take another receiver, right? And I think I did that with Boutte as well, because right now, I have Roma Dunze as my 4th. Boutte would have been my 5 or 6, but just in short notice, all of a sudden, Jalen Waddle is hurt, and it's I don't know. I think that was poor process on my part. I should have gone in harder, because I liked what I saw from him. Eyeball test.
Yeah, I think a problem comes up when you have too many good tight ends, right? So
yes,
you have 3 guys that you don't want to drop, maybe sometimes 4, and you're like, this isn't playable. I used Jonnu Smith as a flex in one league, and that was good last week because I was that Chiefs league, but that was that team that I have all those guys off. But there's a point at which you can only maximum use 2 tight ends, and if you have 4 good tight ends, you get in this problem where you're I don't want to drop one of these guys, but
All right. You want to talk a little Survivor for week 2?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we skated by with Arizona in our buyback pool. So we'll talk circa in a minute, but our pool that we're in together, it's low stakes entry, $25 entry, but there is a good amount of people in. I don't know the total tally yet, and you're allowed buybacks through week 3. We took Arizona in week 1, we moved on. We're in week 2
49ers.
Now. Okay, even with all the stuff
because of it, I don't know. I just had this feeling the Mac Jones Niners are going to win easily, and I just feel they're not really a team to save anymore. And I just think it's a good buyback. I don't know.
Let's just go through. So 49ers are playing
in New Orleans.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. Let me just look at it. Let me find it here. So they're only 3.5 right now in New Orleans. You don't think this is the one that New Orleans can get? They're not going to go over.
Well, I have no idea which one they'll win or whether they go over, but I just feel I feel this is 3.5 despite no Purdy and no Kittle, right? And I feel that most of the squares are going to be I'm taking New Orleans at home, getting 3.5 without those 2 guys. And I think the reason is that the Niners are just going to smoke them because they're just better. Trent Williams looked terrible. He looks old. But I don't know. It might be stupid, but I just woke up today and I was for the buyback pools, I'll take the Niners. I'm not going to take them in the circa, but for the buyback pools.
Because the obvious ones in a no buyback are Baltimore is almost 12 over at home versus Cleveland. That's an easy one, right? That's going to be 60% of the pool.
I don't know. I mean, that survivorgrid.com site has them as 28 to 30% estimated. A lot of people save teams. I'm going to use them in circa. They would have to be very high, 60, 70 for the pot odds to overwhelm the likelihood of them winning. I'm a tiny bit nervous about that game, actually. Tiny bit. Yeah, a tiny bit. But I got to think about it a little more. But I don't like Buffalo in New York. I think the Jets showed they could have a puncher's chance.
Yeah. How about the Rams on the road in Tennessee?
I think they should win on the road in Tennessee, but Cam Ward passed the eye test for me. And yeah, I think they should. I think that's okay. I think the Rams are okay.
So so that one or the other one I had earmarked was, I don't like this one. How about
Dallas?
Dallas. Who are they playing again? I saw
Giants. The Giants.
Right. No, I don't know. That one, a division game, I don't like. Not as much. How about Cincinnati at home, 3.5 versus Jacksonville? Is that one?
No, I think Cincinnati really didn't show up last week. They don't have a good defense, and Jacksonville's defense played well. And what if Liam Cohen tinkers a bit and they actually look like a real offense this week? And ETN, I wouldn't mess with that one. I think Jacksonville could easily beat Cincinnati.
Okay, so in our buyback pool, where if we're wrong, we can buy back 2 more times, I believe. I'll make sure that before we do the next round. But we're going to take San Francisco on the road as just over a field goal favorites against New Orleans. So
that, or you could take the Rams. I'd be okay with, but I think the Rams may be a good team that you might. Again, this buyback. I'd never save teams in a non-buyback, but in a buyback, it's like whatever. Like just burn some teams. The Niners could be good in the end of the year when Kittle and Purdy are healthy.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Let's do this. We're gonna go 49ers on the road. Yeah, it seems like but this is the one that it doesn't matter because we could always buy back. All right, we're going Niners.
They can go 0-17. There's no saying they have to win, and they can win something totally unpredictable. You can't go like that. That's not relevant. Yeah. So in the main circa, I'm probably going Ravens like 90%. I just have a bad feeling. The Browns sometimes beat them the last couple of years. They just would upset them. You can look that up, but I think the Browns upset them once at least, and the Browns played the Bengals really tough. Like their defense played well, right? And then Flacco and Fannin and Cedric Tillman and Judy, there's a little bit of upside for that offense, right? And if Judkins comes back and Dylan Sampson look pretty good, like they may be able to just kind of stay in it. And the weird thing about the Ravens is if you look at Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, this should be the best closeout team in the history of the NFL.
Right.
This should be the team that if they get a lead, you're dead. But in the last few years, they have given up a lot of comeback wins. I don't understand why they cannot just close it out. I don't get it. I don't know what's wrong with them.
They're missing an alpha receiver, but I guess Zay Flowers really did perform like an alpha.
But you're also supposed to just be able to run it over, to run those first downs. They had 4th and 2, and they punted, which was just dumb against Josh Allen needing a field goal to beat them. They should have just gone for it and won the game.
Why do you think they did that then? What was the strategy?
It was 4th and 2 at like the 46 or something, or like so they still needed, remember, it was Matt Prater, who's like 50 years old, was kicking. So the Bills, even if they had failed, would have needed 1 first down, which they probably would have got to win the game. But instead they punted and then they drove down and got the field goal. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they did that. It was 4th and 2, like just win the game.
The other question we keep getting in the RotoWire Discord, you could help out a little bit. We're seeing some RJ Harvey drafting regret, right? Like that.
I have him in a couple leagues. I don't regret it at all. He looked amazing on that run, right?
Yeah.
And Dobbins did look good to me. Like I've dismissed Dobbins because I watched him a lot last year because I had him in a few leagues, and he just wasn't very explosive. He got the opportunity, but he wasn't explosive. But this game, week 1, he looked like he was completely healthy and had some burst. But
people are saying that this could be Sean Payton's Ingram and Kamara eventually.
That's what they were saying. But I think that like Dobbins going to get hurt. I mean, he's never not gotten hurt. Even last year, he made it. I mean, 10 games would be harsh on the Harvey owner because you'd be like dropping Harvey by that time. And then finally you get it late. But I think Dobbins is like the biggest risk, to get hurt. And I do think that, Harvey's going to get more tries. He was so explosive on that one play. They're going to get him involved. But Sean Payton's tough too. It's like people like Marvin Mims who fumbled but Marvin Mims is so erratic. His usage, those receivers, you never know. Besides Cortland Sutton, you never know who's going to get the ball. So Sean Payton can be a little tricky.
You brought up JSN earlier on the Seahawks, but Cooper Kupp, 2 catches for 15 yards. He was dropped in a couple redraft leagues I'm in. Is he just totally dusty?
No, pick him up. He might be dust, but give him 4 weeks. You can't.
At least one more.
Yeah, give him 4 weeks. I think like Cooper Kupp knows how to get open. He knows how to run routes. He's got great hands, great awareness. If he's just like too slow now because he was not fast to begin with and he got old, fine. But I think 4 weeks should be enough time to know that.
All right. That makes sense. Who's your favorite play against the spread in week 2?
I like the Niners the best.
3.5.
Yeah, but I haven't looked at it that closely. I don't know if I'm a masochist, but I sort of like the Giants. They were so ugly, and Dallas looked okay, and I think everyone's going to pick Dallas. I went 0-5 in circa. Like it's hard to go 0-5, and I did. And that's a real hole. There's a booby prize if you get the worst record. So like at a certain point, you got to switch it the other way.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're picking so badly, you got to just keep going, trying to win to lose, right? Like you can't.
Right.
You just got to be extreme, whatever it is. And of course, the prize is much smaller, but I'm not there yet. But 0-5 is like, I'm pretty much, it's over. Like it's like to win against that huge field, starting with that handicap. It's like pretty much like,
you would just need to go 5-0, 4-1 for like 5 weeks straight.
Right. Just to get like in
get even,
like in contention. You know,
right.
It's like if I went 5-0 twice, which is 1 in 1,000, right? 1 in 1,024. I went 5-0 twice. I'd be 15-5, right? Which would be like, okay, now I'm in it. 1 in 1,000 to stay in it. You know, just to be in it, not to win it, just to be.
I mean, think about like a race, track and field. I mean, if you stumble out of the gate, you need to, you know, be quick.
I think I can do it. I think, you get on these streaks and slumps and it just goes like that. But, just if I'm trying to be realistic, the math is very hard if you're 0-5.
Fade Chris Liss. Any of the are you worried about any of the rookie running backs that didn't perform? Marion Hampton, the Chargers went pass heavy. Ashton Genty only like 12 carries for 32 yards. It was 20 carries, for 32 yards, something like that. Yeah, I don't remember the number of carries, but it was low yardage and he got the touchdown.
I think Genty will be fine. I think Marion Hampton should be fine, but I think Najee, the Cyclops, is going to get more work. Cyclops is going to get more work. You don't deny the Cyclops.
Of course.
And I think that like he was on a snap count because he wasn't really in game shape because he wasn't able to practice. But I think he's dangerous. I think Hampton has to he looked pretty good to me and he got a lot of work, but I think he needs to make some explosive plays and get like a 50-yard touchdown run to just sort of get rid of Harris. If he doesn't knock Harris out, give him the knockout blow, I think what we said last week is going to happen, and it's going to be a real headache for the Hampton owners. Trevion Henderson, like Ramondre did absolutely zero, right? So, and Trevion Henderson did a little bit, but they both didn't look that good. Trevion's obviously better, but I don't think it's Trevion's thing yet, and I don't know if it will be this year. So
third round pick in the NFFC.
Too high. I mean, he still could, but I think he should have been 5th, and I think O'Marion probably should have been 3rd with the upside that he would have if he does do the knockout to Najee. But I think Trevion seemed like that was too high.
In my opinion, your observations after each game, the article that you write on Real Man Sports, still the best published piece that I read, and I read
really
a lot.
Think so? I appreciate that because I just I don't do like the snap count. I don't do these route run and all this shit.
I can get all that under the hood metrics anywhere, and frankly, it bores the crap out of me. If I just want to know how in a sense, like the everyman watching football smartly watches, you're just literally listing your observations. You know who else does this really well is Bill Simmons. I don't know if you're a fan or not, but he just talks about his observations. He doesn't get into like the under the hood metrics more than just like, a little bit. So I still think it's the best piece. You could find it over Real Man Sports. You can get it by going there. Is there a fee? What's the cost to get that after every game?
It's free. I'm going to put like some, if I start going a little bit into Survivor, I'm going to put it behind a paywall. There's a couple things I'll put behind a paywall just to like hook up my paid guys with a little extra that not everybody gets, but it's free for now. Realmansports.com. Most of the stuff I'm just posting.
Yeah, no, I think it's still the best. So if anyone listening to this likes a recap in an email where you can read right on the toilet the next day, it just goes through all the observations.
You're not allowed to read on the toilet. It's not allowed.
Why not?
It's you got to read on like your balcony, on the beach. I want to be associated with, this kind of thing.
No, it's Real Man reads on the toilet.
I'm just kidding. You read it wherever you want.
I used to read the Sports Almanac on the toilet. That was my thing when I was a kid.
When I was a kid, when I couldn't sleep, I would just read Sports Almanacs and like just read all the records. And I just, yeah.
And I just mentioned Bill Simmons a minute ago. They were talking about, do you remember the show? I mean, of course you remember it, but Inside the NFL. I mean, how great it's gone. It's no longer, it's now like,
it was like the music and then they show all the highlights and stuff. And you're a kid.
Nick Bonacani would host it and Len Dawson as kids.
And you did it was on HBO, but it was like, cause you didn't get you didn't have Twitter where you could see every clip of everything, or Sunday Ticket where you could like rewatch or what you like were like, oh my God, I didn't see like this amazing play. And that it was like a huge deal, right?
Right. The music would come on and like, the NFL film stuff. And you're right. Like even all that stuff you see on social media now, like the locker room, the game ball awarding, JJ McCarthy, game ball. Like you only saw that inside the NFL, but that show just went bad, right? Because it survived a little bit in the 2000s, and then it like, I don't know, it became like not the coolest place to listen to football stuff, and now it's just like a Twitter show at this point.
Yeah, I mean, things are good for a while, and then they coast on the brand name, and then finally that wears off, right? Like the restaurant that you love, and then you're like, it wasn't quite as good the last couple of times. Then you're like, it actually sucks, and then you don't go back. But there's things that coast on the brand. I feel like colleges, universities, like, oh, you go to Harvard. Yeah, they're still coasting on the brand. Like it's a total joke. those places, but they're still like, for rich people, they get their kid into Harvard. They're like, oh, my kid got into Harvard. You can buy a Ferrari. Anybody with money can buy a Ferrari, but you can't get your kid into Harvard necessarily. So it's like those things still have brand value. But eventually, if the product's bad, the brand wears off. And I think, with these shows, it was like you get people who just want to get some ex-jock in there who doesn't really know football, and they don't have a good...
What'd you think about? Did you see the interaction between Ryan Clark and who's the guy who used to be on?
No,
NFL?
I didn't. I said there's somebody who had the apology. Ryan Clark made an apology.
Let me just explain for anyone didn't see. They were Ryan Clark, ex-football player, and Peter Schrager were on an ESPN show, and they were discussing who had a better game, AJ Brown or CeeDee Lamb, and they disagreed. And Ryan Clark did the old thing that's been going on. Hey, you didn't play the game, so you don't know what's going on. And obviously, to his credit, Peter Schrager said, don't belittle me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't need to have done it to. And then people piled on Ryan Clark saying, no, you can't just claim you were a player, more.
I mean, like, it's so funny because if you were like, you're not an epidemiologist, those same people were like, that's right, you're not an epidemiologist. You should be wearing your mask like they told you to outside, right? How are you not to wear your mask, right? So the same people piling on are the same idiots that were totally credential based. And it's almost like they're such snobs because having a degree, which is like pathetic, you don't know shit, right? They're comparing that to actually playing NFL football, which is a real thing. It's not just a credential. Playing in the NFL is a real... It's hard to play in the NFL, and you do know real things about playing that people who didn't play don't know. And so it's funny that they'll trust the experts. People are like mad at him. That's like such a snobbish, elitist thing. Like the working man who blood and sweat is not the guy that you can say that, but the epidemiologist, because he's some douchebag with a degree. This is like really sick. I'm on Ryan Clark's side. Look, we can all observe, right? Like I can watch a game and make my observations and they're valid.
You don't need to have played to have an opinion about football.
No, but you might, having played, know some things that other people don't realize because you might be like, well, here's what happens when, X, Y, and Z happens. And you don't know because you didn't play. Now, I'm not saying that's like it's like argument from authority. I played, so I'm right. A lot of the guys who played have some of the worst takes, right? They're not good at explaining it.
Right.
Which is weird. The guy that was the best was Joe Morgan, the baseball player. He was the greatest sabermetric player in real life. He walked, he stole bases at a high clip. He played great defense. He hit for power. He did everything correctly to be an optimal player. He won 2 MVPs, and he was just really he's probably the greatest second baseman of all time. Okay, one of them at least. But as an analyst, all the shit he said was not what he actually did. So he didn't know how to translate his actual game, which was like perfect, to analyzing the game. And go ahead.
So, because the other piece of it though is that, and Bill Simmons brought this up, is that I was thinking about this from like a media perspective. Like, yeah, fine, there's good TV about having arguments, but you need to trust the people you're doing live television with. Imagine like you went on ESPN and they just want to make you look like a fool, right? Like
that's happened. Well, ESPN, but this one guy, Mitch Albom, tried to mock me for being a fantasy guy.
I remember this.
And he like set me up. And I think I destroyed him. I mean, I remember it that way. I was just like, what are you talking about, man? There's like people love their teams, but the teams trade players all the time. And why wouldn't you want to grow there? I was just like completely, and he thought it was going to be an easy, like, make fun of this guy. And it didn't go well for him, I don't think. But
that's my point, is you have to trust the person. Again, you were just doing a guest spot, but these two are on there all the time. And you have to take, in my opinion, good media is not when you don't disagree, but you take care of each other on the air, especially if, so. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I don't know. What train wreck people like, but like, here's the thing. Yes, you shouldn't disrespect your guy and be like, you're an idiot. You don't know shit. It's like, well, that's why they all jumped on him, by the way, because all his colleagues, a lot of them didn't play, and it was like they're protecting their territory. But I think that's fine. My thing is, I'd say, yeah, you played, but you don't know how to articulate what's going on with the game, right? You know things I don't know, but just because you know it doesn't mean you know how you know it. And I think that's actually true. Yep. I don't think Tom Brady could say, because it's not sayable, how he was so great. Like, it's like he doesn't even know what he does. He can't.
Well, he would see it happening before it happens.
But how do you, like, in other words, like the doing and the talking about it is two totally separate processes. So like, I don't even think you could ask, he could say something. Yeah, I was in touch. I was, whatever, but like, it's not really what was going on. He just knew how to do it. Whatever it was, he knew how to do it. And so I actually think it doesn't really matter, but but the point is, I don't care that he said that. That's like small potatoes from the bullshit we heard from all these epidemiologist people, and like, so who cares?
I mean, his point, actually, Ryan Clark's point that he was trying to make was actually not a bad one. It was that he was saying that Schrager was saying CeeDee Lamb had a better game than A.J. Brown, and he said that's not how football players think about it, because A.J. Brown's team got a win. CeeDee Lamb was the reason his team lost with the drop pass.
Right.
So CeeDee Lamb's not going to go home and say, "Oh, I had 100 yards and 8 catches." He's going to say, I dropped that pass to win the game. He said that's how players think, was his point.
But that's also like a dumb argument. I didn't realize that was the argument, because it's like that's just a semantic thing. What do you mean by good game? What do you mean by bad game? Right? Like AJ Brown was irrelevant. He could have put you or me out there and run a route without getting a pass, right? Like, but that's not like, what do you mean? That's just like that has nothing to do with anything. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. These stat nerds they're just reaping what they sow at this point. I don't care. I'm with the jocks now. I used to identify with the stat nerds. Now I identify with the jocks.
Go follow Chris Liss on X at Chris_Liss on you're on Blue Sky. No, I'm just kidding. I know you're not on Blue Sky.
By the way, they're saying they need to put more people in insane asylums now. That's like an online insane asylum. They were like, you know what? If we just built this online insane asylum and put everybody there, that would actually like do a lot to clean up the online discourse. And it's great. Just put those people in an insane asylum.
You follow him at Real Man Sports. I'm at Alan Seslowsky. If you want to come over and check out RotoWire, I'm going to give everyone a 15% off discount right now. Go to rotowire.com and put in code YouTube15. That'll get you 15% off all the in-season tools, premium content behind the paywall. Great way to support RotoWire. And then we will be back next week. We're going to try to record these on Thursdays, get them out Thursday. This way we have like a full week of information. We can process what happened and then, prognosticate the week ahead. I'll be back next week with another fantasy football podcast.